talk about budgeting as an example, and I've seen how some places teach budgeting. They say, here's $100, how would you spend it? And, they look to see whether or not you allocate a certain money to gas and rent and all that other good stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not really, what a budget really is. I mean, a budget is much more than that. But more importantly, and I learned this from trying to teach my son budgeting. The first time I did it, I went through a very similar process. I said, put down how much money you have and where you spend it, and he went through the exercise. And at the end, he goes, "Well, Dad, thanks a lot. You basically proved that I'm screwed." And I got no way out. I got no money, and I got all these expenses. And he felt, horrible about it. And I thought about it, and I go, if I was talking to anybody else, I would have emphasized the fact that a budget isn't, the end all and be all. It's really it's a photograph. It's a point in time. But what was missing from the whole conversation about budget is goals and objectives and desires and dreams, and all that stuff is incredibly powerful. When I talk to clients in my practice, I mean, the first thing we do is we talk about, what are you trying to accomplish? Do you want to buy a new house? Do you want to spoil your grandchildren? Whatever it happens to be. But those dreams are incredibly powerful, and when you start thinking about those things and they become real to you, they become meaningful. And I'd like to share one story of somebody that I talked to in a facility in Pennsylvania. We were talking about budgeting, and he raises his hand and he asked the question, "Well, what do you do about somebody like me?" And I go, "Well, what is somebody like you? What's the issue?" And he goes, "I'm very impulsive." Is anybody here surprised to hear somebody in recovery is impulsive?
That's news to me.
That's right. It's shocking.
Yes.
I go, give me an example. What do you mean you're impulsive? He goes, "Well, I was driving down the road and I saw this sign for the new Mercedes, and I had to have one. And the very next day I went into the store and I bought the new Mercedes." He goes, "And now I'm being evicted from my house and I don't know what to do." And I said, "Let me ask you a question. When you spent the money on the Mercedes, did you stop to think that the amount of money you were spending on the car could have put your kids through college?" He goes, "No." I said, "Did you ever stop for a minute to think that the amount of money you spent on the car could have put a down payment on a nicer place for yourself, and you could have put your kids in a better school system?" He goes, "No." And he started to cry. And I said, "Listen, I'm not doing this to point out or make you feel bad." I said, the reality of it is people who are in recovery, they're so focused on the immediacy of today. I mean, let's face it, everybody tells you just take one day at a time, right? One day at a time. It's all about just get through the day. Well, finances don't work that way. Finances need time to work. And when you start thinking about the long-term aspects, and what I saw even in him as we went through this is that when he started factoring in long-term goals, all of a sudden he realized that there's a good chance he was going to live a lot longer than he really realized, but he'd never thought about it. Therefore, he never planned for it. And since he's never stopped to think about, I might actually have children. I might want to put them through college. I might want a better life. Immediacy will always win when there's nothing on the other side to compete for it. So if you have $1 and you're sitting there going, I can either spend $1 or $10 on a pack of cigarettes or drink, and there's nothing on the other side, which is, if I put that $10 away, I might be able to put a down payment on a vacation that I'd really like to take my wife to. Then immediacy will always win. You'll always spend everything you have, and it'll always be gone. The minute you introduce these hopes and dreams, then all of a sudden there's competing forces, and that competing forces is incredibly healthy because it makes you evaluate and prioritize what's important to you. And I've found in dealing with people in addiction that they've never had any hope because they've never thought beyond just getting through today. But the minute you start having discussions about what life is going to look like in the future, all of a sudden they feel better about the fact too. And my son, after we redid the discussion about budgeting, he has come to realize that, okay, maybe I should be saving for something, that there is something beyond just survival. And I think it's a powerful motivator.